Experience Karen Hunter in a completely different way. Karen Hunter is awesome. The podcast.
If you like me on SiriusXM Urban View Channel 126, you're gonna love me. And Karen Hunter is awesome. Hey, this is Karen Hunter, host of the Karen Hunter Show on SiriusXM's Urban View. Karen Hunter is awesome is an actual podcast to bring heat and energy and knowledge and power. A 1-2 punch that I don't think you get anyplace else. Tell the truth. Check out the podcast wherever you get your podcast. You will not be disappointed. We're talking off-mic politics and things, so I just want to jump in with someone who actually represented Congressperson from Illinois' 3rd District. I need some advice for all of the folk out there who want to run, and then we're going to talk about her personally as well. Let me welcome, she's been here before. You've heard her on Qasim Rashid's show as well. Representative Marie Newman. Hey.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Good to be here.
Good to see you. Good to have you here. I was sharing with you in the break, Crystal Matthews, who was in the House from the great state of South Carolina, ran against Tim Scott and lost. And she's been, people are kind of encouraging her to run in 2026 against Lindsey Graham for the Senate.
Yeah. Absolutely
could use her in the Senate. But it's an uphill battle, and she's like, it's exhausting, and there's a lot of sacrifice, and it's like, I didn't feel very supported. What advice can you share with her and all of the folk who might want to run?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm telling everybody. I've done about 20 town halls helping new activists, old activists, anybody that wants to help. 2 things. One is this is a doable fight, as gloomy and doomy as it is, and we'll talk about some bright stars on the horizon. I do have good news for everybody. I'm also telling everybody at the beginning and the end of every speech, run for office at every level, be power, use your power, all of those things, because we need new blood in our party. We need to rebuild this party. This party has lost its way, and we are in a moment that we can really be powerful in our rebuilding. So to Crystal and everybody that wants to run out there, please run. And by the way, I'm here for questions. I'm here to help. I am supporting many candidates right now. So I'm run.
Well, you won in 2020 in the 3rd District, and then you got primaried. Walk us through.
I got redistricted out. So we had
that's what I was going to say. What happened?
Yeah, we were one of the states that lost population, and then ultimately later when they corrected the census, it turns out that we gained population.
Oh, wow.
A full joke, right?
Oh.
Is it a joke or is there some shenanigans?
No, it's real. No, it happened.
Okay.
It's real.
So this is based on the census, right?
Yes,
so the census
right.
numbers determine how many representatives. People, why do I fill out the census? Why should I fill out the census? I don't want them to know anything about where I'm living. No, it's about resources. It's about, how many tickets you get, how many representatives you get. So because of the census numbers, you got redrawn.
Yeah, right. And so I got drawn. My district got pulled into 6 different districts. So I had to run in a district that I didn't have very much of a base in. And, it is what it is. We all landed, right? I do believe that there is kind of a predetermined destiny in some ways. And I'm doing a lot of really good activism work, which I'm really enjoying. I'm kind of a better activist than I think politician. So, we are where we are.
Okay, so I'm going to tag you in to help us get Crystal elected in South Carolina.
Happy to.
Very, very, very. I'm excited because you have a book out. And in the first part, it's lessons from bullies and mentors, right? Lessons from bullies and mentors. And you start off, your child comes to you, and it's a very sad story. And they say, I know how to deal with bullies. I can get in a car accident and come back as a different person.
Yeah. Yeah, that he ran in the house that day and had just been at you can imagine a 10, 11-year-old running in the house saying, Mom, I've got this great idea. I think we can solve the bullying. And I was like, honey, I am all ears. Like, please, sweet Jesus, if you've got something, I'll do it. Right. So, and he said, yeah, I think we can have me get into a car accident and then I can come back as a different person. So he wanted to rebrand, right? Now in his little brain, he didn't calculate exactly what he was saying. And he wasn't suicidal, to be clear, but like he thought that like in his brain that he could come back as a different person and then that would stop all the bullying. And it broke my heart and it broke me, but it also told me I have to do something. I have to, go in the closet, get the mama sword out and really start working on this problem because you know what? No one else will. And that's happened to me many times in my life. Part of the reason I wrote this book is that, I'm constantly beating back bullies, constantly.
The book is called A Life Made from Scratch, Lessons from a Controversial Congresswoman, Mompreneur, and Unstoppable Political Force. Is it unstoppable?
Activist. Yeah.
Activist. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a bully, I believe, running this country right now.
100.
What should we be doing that we're not doing?
Yeah, so here's what I think is interesting right now. We're at a precipice moment. Um, I'm going to give a little bit of good news, and then I'm going to give everybody a little homework, which will help them know what to do, right? So the good news is our state AGs in 20 of our states have done a miraculous job of reversing these horrifying decisions and actions that Doge and Trump have put forth against our immigrants, communities of color, folks that need Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security, on and on. There's a very long list he has attacked, right? So our state AGs, rock stars, they were ready for this moment because they read that awful document. I don't think everybody was ready. They were ready. So state AGs, rock stars, they're making progress. The activist community, which is Indivisible, Move On, Project 5051, there's a bunch of them, right? Our unions, they're all working really hard and they're doing a lot with protests, right? And I will say it's having some effect. So the economic boycotts, amazing, right? Target lost $16 billion in inside 1 month. They're on pace to do a similar loss. Tesla's stock was cut in half by 50%. They're not doing well. And Amazon is feeling it. They've had a 6% decrease. Their stock is down, all of those things, on and on. Boycotts are working. What the calls to your Republican senators and members of Congress are working, to Democrats, and light a fire under them. And our Democrats in the House and a few others are finally having town halls and getting out to talk to people, because what they didn't do for the last couple decades actually is get out rural areas and exurbs and talk to them, see what people really wanted, because about 60% of our nation are context voters or independents. They don't give a good goddamn about RRD. They just don't. They are people with a bag of contacts or context issues. So whether it is prices, education, my mom needs Medicaid, whatever it is, like that's our context. People vote with context. They don't care about RRD. And I think our Democratic politicians are finally figuring that out after many, many months and many years. So here's what we can do. Keep doing the calls to Democrats and Republicans. Keep showing up at Republican senators and congresspeople's offices. Showing up, by the way, hint to everybody out there, showing up in person really wakes up a member of Congress. Like, woo, woo, really good. So in person is best. Then call. Emails are okay. Social media really doesn't do anything, so stop. Showing up at protests and being part of this. There's a big whopper event coming on April 5th. And it's an opportunity. You don't have to be an activist. You don't have to know policy. You don't have to know anything. You just show up on April 5th at state capitals across our nation, at major congresspeople's offices and senators' offices. And you'll have directions on the internet. Just go Google April 5th, hands off our democracy. And it will be the equivalent of a general strike.
Okay. So Marie Newman is here, former representative from the great state of Illinois. She's got a new book, Life Made from Scratch, Lessons from a Controversial Congresswoman, Mompreneur, and Unstoppable Political Activist. I've been telling my folk to stay home because I think that they've been goading us to get into the streets so that we can be cannon fodder. And we don't need to be in the streets because the police are deputized and other people are deputized. I mean, hell, he pardon January 6th terrorists, and
Right.
folk are doing things to people that and getting away with it and feeling emboldened. I don't. We've done that. We've been
Yeah.
on the front lines. We got people rights and freedoms. This is the folk that look like you. It's their time to walk out
That's
and be.
so it's interesting. I just said this. I had a town hall on Saturday, and I said, guess what? Tell your communities of color and your friends of color to stay home. It is our damn time to do
Mm.
our damn work. And so, Kieran, keep on telling them the same thing, because that's what I'm telling. I am telling all of my friends that have never gotten out in the streets before. Guess what? You own this. You got to do this, and it is your time to do it. So, yes, you're exactly right.
Congressman, I have a question. If you could build a coalition of Americans that could help move the needle in a way that is forward for this democracy, this democratic experiment, what would it look like in the 2020s, given how, in a lot of ways, we've gone backwards over the last couple of decades, as you referenced decades a moment ago? I mean, we saw it start with abortion rights. It's just been like one thing after another, and then it's been sped up with these series of executive orders. What would you want it to look like, and how do we get there?
Yeah. So I think we start by, and Ken Martin, the DNC, the new DNC chair, is doing this. He's getting out to the rural areas where we've not been in literally 20 years, ex-urban areas, small towns and small cities, and saying, what do you want?
Yeah,
I keep telling Democrats, this is not hard, folks. Pretend they're strangers and that you want to get to know them. And it's
yeah,
as simple as that. What do you want, need? When I was starting in politics and I had meet and greets and I didn't know anybody in the room, say, you know what, can you tell me what it is that you really want? And then I want to think about it and think about solutions with you as my partner, not
that's right.
talking at you. Because you know, Trump voters said to me, and when I was knocking doors for VP Harris, they said, you know what? Nobody's asked me before, and now you're telling me what I want. I was like, point taken.
Point
Point taken.
taken.
Yeah.
Point taken.
And I think that's why we lost part of our coalition. So, Kevin, good question about the coalition. The coalition has to come from those people that stayed home, right? There were battalions of young people under 35 that just stayed home because they were so disheartened because the Democratic Party has become so corporatized that they're disgusted, right? Like they're like, well, how are you different than the Republican Party? You're all, super corporatized. So we've got to win young people back by asking them what they want and building solutions that make sense for everybody, right? We also have to go back to our communities of color and say, how did we screw up? Apologize,
Hmm.
because that's how you start and mend a friendship, right? Is say, you know what? I screwed up. There's nothing more compelling than being honest about and being accountable about a failure and then saying, let's rebuild. And I think that's how we go back to those communities and say, we're willing to listen and we're willing to partner with you to create a solution. But it starts with, I'm sorry.
Trust them.
Yes.
Wow. Thank
Yes.
you.
As Kevin and I have been talking, off mic, on mic, the state of this union, I don't know. It's shocking at the same time expected, and I
Yeah.
don't know if it's fixable. I don't, but I do know that everyone listening to my voice lives somewhere. So if
That's
we can focus, because most politics is local, as you know, if we can focus in getting people to have the muscle to go and challenge their mayors and city council people and alder people and not just their reps and their senators and governors, but the folk
right.
that impact their day-to-day life more poignantly and
Right.
show up. Because I voted for a city council and that person only got a couple of thousand votes that won. And I'm like, there's like 300,000 people you got a couple of thousand and you were able to win with a couple, like folk aren't even showing up for those down ballot positions or even running. People running unopposed. How do we get people to recognize that they live somewhere and they have a responsibility to where they live?
Yeah. Um, It is really rough, right? There's a term called accelerationism. It's a political science term, and it means that everything has to get so very, very bad, and that all of the bad things have to happen at once for a general population to be affected by it. And I think we're kind of getting there, right? So take advantage of this time as everybody that's in earshot of this to say, look what happened because we decided that we were going to sit this one out, or that we were tired or whatever it was. Or we didn't believe in either party. Like, and that's probably more the case, right? So so now we're at a place where we can point to something that's very, very ugly and very clear and say, okay, we do need you. And I have news, and I think you alluded to this at the top, Karen. You said it's not going to be the politicians that save us. We are going to, no one's coming to save us. We are going to save us. So the people, and when we, and in addition to what you just said about that, give our friends of color a damn break, and all the white people need to get out there and fight like hell to get this nation back on track. And so get up off the couch and
Mm.
do that.
What gives you hope, Congresswoman? What gives you
Yeah.
hope in spite of everything that's happening right now? What do you
Yeah.
draw upon?
It's what I said is that boycotts are working. People are getting out in the streets. When I'm doing these town halls, I've been going to town halls across Illinois, the Midwest, and then I'm doing a lot of national Zoom calls. I'm telling everybody, you know what? Unfortunately, it's everything. It's not one silver bullet, right, guys? Like, you can't, okay, if you do this one thing, it'll be great and it'll be solved. It is this flood the zone. And so if you can, I have a calendar of activism. So on Mondays and Wednesdays, I make calls to Democrats and Republicans and said, hey, what are you doing? This is craziness, right? In very clear terms, by the way, and everybody that can hear this, don't worry, you do not have to talk policy speak on a phone. You pick up that phone and say, hey, my friend's child has it benefits from Head Start and it's going away. I'm real mad. And you say it as simple as that. Hey, my mom's on Medicare, and you know what? I'm real mad. Just be clear with people, because you know what? Then they understand it a lot better. You don't need to know about all the machinations and the terms and the craziness in DC to be able to make that call. Just call them and tell them you're mad and why. But all of those things, calls, showing up in person, the protests, and boycotts are very powerful. I can't tell you how powerful the boycotts and the works. Why do you think that Mr. Orange had a used car out on his front lawn trying to sell cars of the White House? Because his pal's in deep doo-doo.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I do have to ask, because I agree with you that we should get involved in every way possible. Folks should run
Yeah.
for office at every level. But,
Yeah.
given that we've had some people become elected officials now who seem woefully underprepared for it, can you just talk about how your journey, how you became, like, what do we need to do to prepare to be an office holder? Like, you can't just jump out there if you don't know what you're doing, correct?
Well, that is probably, although I kind of did, I'm not going to lie. Like,
That's all right. I ran for
so I
Congress too.
was
I
an
didn't know at
activist
first.
25, 30 years. In college, I worked on civil rights and women's
Yep.
rights. In
Yep.
my 20s, on gun reform and healthcare equity, getting healthcare to everybody and filling in the gaps for healthcare. And did that for 25 years before anybody
Yep.
asked me to run. People started to ask me to run because I built a national nonprofit around anti-bullying, right?
Mm.
And then they asked me, and I said, "Are you high?" Like, I've never run for office. I never even ran for student council, for God's sakes,
Yeah.
Had been an activist for a while. And here's how you do it, is that you listen to people. It's how I started. I did an exploratory run where I sat down with, I don't know, 5 to 30 people in living rooms, garages, on front lawns saying, hey, what do you want? What's going on here? What's at the bottom of this, right? And it was right around the time Trump won the first time. So when that night he won, I decided I was going to run for something. And the person that was just horribly ineffective happened to be my congressperson. And I had an exploratory campaign. I got a team of experts around me. I started to raise money, and then I realized, wow, there's an ability to take this guy down. But it was just a lot. I mean, I knocked on 10,000 doors the first run I had personally. And then the second run, about a similar number of doors. So it was just a lot of hard work. But you start with understanding everybody's problems in your community. It's as simple as that. It's not magical.
Experience Karen Hunter in a completely different way. Karen Hunter is awesome. The podcast.
If you like me on SiriusXM Urban View Channel 126, you're gonna love me. And Karen Hunter is awesome. Hey, this is Karen Hunter, host of the Karen Hunter Show on SiriusXM's Urban View. Karen Hunter is awesome is an actual podcast to bring heat and energy and knowledge and power. A 1-2 punch that I don't think you get anyplace else. Tell the truth. Check out the podcast wherever you get your podcast. You will not be disappointed.